Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in the inmendham. Yes, the original. And, probably be the only one. Exactly. There'll be some other thing, unmendham or not mendham or some kind of thing like that. But, anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this week's fun video was an interview between, this German girl called something or other, like one name kind of thing, who is, doing advocacy. So she's a rescueist, let's call ourselves that or something. We think we need to go rescue things that are entrapped in horrible conditions, whether it's, this political stuff, the slavery, the terrible living conditions people have to endure and all that stuff, and we want to correct that, and we want to make life better for people, and stop the evil gluttons from ruining everybody's life, blah 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 blah. And then we sit there and extend the mission. We say, oh, look at all these little animals, they're also being enslaved and trapped and being obliged to live in filth and garbage, and let's do something about that. And there's arguments to be made about what defines a rescue. I mean, frankly, if well, let's say they saved the slaves, and then they decided, well, let's send the slaves back to Africa, in terrible boats that sink, and where half of them or more than half die on the trip, to put them back in their own environment, blah blah blah, somebody might object and say, no, you're not really doing them a favor, okay? Especially the house slaves or something. Don't have it nearly bad enough to justify risking killing them to save them, in some horrible way, especially. And then you extend that a little bit further and you realize, okay, this whole natural system is just disgusting. Animals eating each other, not allowed. It's just not proper behavior. It's retarded. Got to stop doing that. Blah blah. So it becomes this enormous rescue mission. Just so monstrous that there's just nowhere to even start. There's so much of it. You could just spend your whole life lifting something out of its horror and placing it, and you wouldn't put a tiny dent in what's happening. And so you could think, the solution is I'll do that Back to the Future thing. I'll get myself one of them whatever it was, gigawatt, Wayback machines, and I'll change the past and fix the future. Well, the fact is we're already in the past. This is the future's past, and we're basically sitting there with a dinner table, having dinner with nature, and we have a fork and we can stick it in its eye. We can do, we can fix it now in the past for the future, and it's just a fact. And all we have to do is have a few words, the right kind of conversations, and say the right little babbly words, and done deal. We can prevent the problem from existing. So say there's a dam and it burst, and all kinds of horror happens and people drown and just terrible and awful. And the simple solution is let's make it so the dam was never built, and then it can't freaking get a hole in it, and then it can't collapse and cause horror. Simple solution. Prevention is so simple. But so we can't go back and stop what happened in the past, but we are in the past relative to the future, and so we can do exactly the same thing that we would do if we were in the future and we wanted to go back into the past and fix it. All right, anyway. So then what this ends up being, though, is a conversation with a nihilist. So he's not on a rescue mission. He's on, I don't know, it's some sort of vacation fun he has to talk about veganism. He calls himself Vegan Gains. And, again, it was about some sort of, well, look, I can gain muscles without eating the meat. It wasn't a very complex or elaborate philosophical position, our reason. So you'd almost call me was almost a health vegan, okay, not a agenda, to rescue vegan, but who knows? Maybe there is some true sympathy somewhere in his soul, but I'm having my doubts. That his agenda is anything but, aggrandizing his own positions. But whatever, because that's, basically what a nihilist is. And so it's basically, having an argument with a nihilist is just so irritating because it's so unreasonable, to pretend that we can't understand our position here. So I guess I'll try to illustrate that. Okay, it's a little blob of clay. All right, so I gave it a couple of legs and some little army things, but that's it. Let's just start with something really simple. And so we know we came from something very simple, like flatworm, and it has a mouth and an ass, and it just digests to grab energy. So it's just a DNA machine, all right, a little machine, okay, that goes through the environment, consuming chemistry that it can glean solar, that's where it starts, energy from. I suppose it's mostly solar. I mean, you could argue that some of it is gravitational energy because the Earth is heated in its core by gravitational pressure, and that heat is also directly stealable into function. If you use the right chemical device, the right device can take the heat and make that into mobiling energy. But anyway, you don't want to get into a physics argument. So the biology, okay, the chemistry turns into something called biology, these more complicated organisms. But you can really simplify it. You can take it all the way down to something very simple that just replicates, a single cell, and, with very simple, mouth-ass kind of function, and not much else. And you can just understand that everything else is just adding tools. And so you add these little tools to this blob of clay. And eventually in that process, what was added, okay, was profoundly significant in the sense that there were nerve cells, and then the nerve cells created a complex enough amount of reflexes, little switches, to create this thing called an ouch, this thing called a sensation, and that we have the benefit of experiencing. Now we can't experience the sensation in the crude form. The first ouch probably felt different than this more complex one that we feel. But it's just a tool. It just makes it possible for the organism to be quickly and motivated to change its conditions. It's just a warning. It's a detector of danger, and we're back to that whole fight or flight thing. Where the brain, the reflexive brain, has to make a decision based on what are varying circumstances. I'm meeting another blob of clay. Does it have a sword or not? Okay, if it doesn't have a sword, then I kill it, and steal its energy. If it has a sword, then I run away. That kind of simple kind of logic. And so we have the ability to feel, basically just to deal with that circumstance of either move towards something or move away from it. Either it feels unbad or it feels bad. And, that's all you need as a motivator. So all you need is a whip to control the DNA slaves. And so the whip is the ouch, and everything else you feel, the good stuff, is usually directly related to relieving you of your tensions, relieving you of the weights that have been placed on you, and it feels good when that happens. So if you win the lottery, or you have sex, or you do this, or you do that, it gives you a nice little reboot, cleans you of your immediate concerns and worries, takes you away from it all, a warm bath or something, and does you some good by taking away your burdens, your itchy mosquito bites, whatever. But that's what we live with. We're constantly fettered by tensions. Okay, even having to make this video, it's I don't go into it with all this fun enthusiasm. Oh, gee, I have another chance to screw it up and not say the right thing. That's a lot of fun. No, it isn't any fun. So yeah, it feels good when it's done. When I finish the video, I'm like, oh, good, it's done. Shit. I could take a little breath, and relax. So that's all we're doing. But the fact that we are doing it, okay, a nihilist should be able to concede that that's a logically deduced fact, okay? If we were a non-sentient thinking machine, we would have to take that into account as a fact that, oh, these organisms aren't doing any sensation, and this kind over here, is doing sensation, and that's a huge difference between the two organisms. It's a gigantic difference. It's an undescribably, there is a cavern, okay, that is, billions of light years across kind of difference between something that can manifest a feeling and something that can't, okay. So, that's the nature of value in the universe, is just the acknowledgement of the existence of sensations. Now, what things feel sensations about, that is, what makes them feel good and what makes them feel bad, that, you could argue, is subjective. Okay, that is conditioning, that's environmental. They have a good relationship with the color pink, and they have a bad relationship with the color purple. You can narrow that down to, those kind of preferences, like what kind of, he'll make the example of what kind of food you like, or flavor of ice cream, or some other bullshit. Yeah, that's subjective, okay? That just has to do with how your individual organism in this complex social system has been programmed by its personal experience over years of time maturating in the environment, soaking in it. And so it becomes attached, and its programming creates sensations that are going to be different than somebody else's sensations who grew up someplace else in some other environment where exactly the opposite colors, ruled the world and treated it well or treated it badly. Maybe red is a rapist, in Mongolia, and purple, is the rescuer, and vice versa someplace else. Anyway, but the acceptance of the existence of sentient organisms already destroys nihilism. I mean, you now have something that is objectively understandable as good and bad in the universe. And the fact that we have sampled it, which is a gigantic advantage for us as an intelligence. I mean, we have this huge advantage where we're actually getting to taste it and understand it by feeling it and experiencing it. And so my testimony that bad feelings are innately bad, that is, you can never make a toothache a good thing or fun, and the good feelings, that is the relief, is always going to be relief. You're not going to change the fact that it feels good if somebody pulls the nail out of your eye, so to speak. It feels good if somebody stops drilling a hole in your tooth. And that's just undeniable. And those two conditions are all there is in the universe that matters. Nothing else matters. I mean, or is he really going to argue that if I had a hunk of the universe that was vacant of all life and I just stuck a rabbit somewhere in that space, that all of a sudden it matters now what happens? That you have to figure out, are any meteors going to hit the rabbit? What's going to happen? It's going to matter. The welfare of the rabbit matters. What the rabbit likes, carrots or rutabagas, that doesn't matter. But whether the rabbit's going to have a good time or a bad time, that matters. That's value. And that exists in a plethora, okay, on planet Earth. There's a ton of these things, okay, that have this capacity. Now, there's a ton of these little things that we call a living thing that aren't doing nothing. Their brain isn't manifesting ouches if they have a brain. It takes a certain number of neurons before sensation's going to be possible to manifest. But we know it is a very primitive function. We know that something as dumb as like a worm does have a reflexive reaction indicating that it's experiencing a sensation first, and then it reacts to the sensation. So the sensation becomes part of its environment, all right, and it becomes a thorn in its side, so to speak, and it extracts the thorn. That it's not some sort of pre-programmed event. It depends on where you raise the worm. It'll do it a little differently. So anything that does it a little differently, that is, extract the sword or the thorn differently, then you know that organism is feeling, because that organism is just being told, I'm going to give you bad. Okay, I'm going to stick some bad in your brain, and the bad means you have to extract the bad. And the only way to extract the bad is to extract the sword from the other guy's hand. That's the thing causing the worry. That's the distress. That's the alarm. Is what's being triggered is the odor or the sight or the recognition of something that's a threat. And then when it becomes, the personal evasions are even more obvious, the hard sensations of it's too hot, or there's not enough air to breathe, or, and the panic starts, and the fight to relieve yourself of the bad circumstances begins. So all of that is just so undeniable fact. I mean, that's, rudimentary science. Fifth graders should be able to handle an understanding of this evolution thing and the distinction between the organisms that are sentient and non-sentient, and the fact that there's just no way to logically make a distinction between, because the blob of clay is round or square, that somehow it makes a difference, that ouch is different because it's a square thing and not a round thing, or it's a woman and not a man, or it's a tree. It thinks it's a tree, but it's really not a tree. Come on. Doesn't matter. Any of that crap doesn't matter. It just matters that there's a sentient brain, a feeling machine, and the feeling machine is in a circumstance causing negative, harsh, unpleasant, nasty sensations, which we all have tasted and know to be abhorrent and preventing. You have to stop them. Especially when they get extreme and torturous. That's unacceptable. If they can't pull the thorn out, then I have to do it. Somebody has to do it because the sentient organism is suffering. You could give a rabbit some horrible disease, and then you have the antidote. The rabbit can't fix it, but you can. Okay. And then you get into all these other, the really ugly, hard, difficult parts where the antidote is you're done, you're cooked, you're dying, and all I can do is make it more expedient and spare you a bunch of wasted torment and pain. And, this is the difficult subject because people have all kinds of religious notions, and they have all kinds of attachments, and they want, a better outcome than it game over. They don't want to hear that. Your time ran out. Sorry, can't play anymore. Well, it's the seventh inning. We haven't finished. Well, time ran. And they just don't want to hear that time ran out. So that's all very illogical. But again, the very fact that you have to have a conversation with people who negate the existence of sentience, essentially, as a dramatically different form of matter, and that is the core of all value. If the sentient organism didn't exist in the universe, there wouldn't be any discussion about value, because nothing could matter, because nothing could be hurt. And if you can't hurt anything, you can't put anything in this negative condition, then there isn't anything at stake, and there's no winning or losing. There's no meaning to any of it, because there's no prize and there's no penalty. There's no reward and there's no punishment. There's no agony of defeat and something of victory. You know, you don't have any of that. Ecstasy. You don't have that contrast. And without that contrast, there is any game is a good game. There's no such thing as you can't have anything bad, because there's no kernel of bad. Okay, so you can't make anything bad. You can't make a bad outcome. And if you can't make a negative outcome, then you can't make anything called relatively positive. So, you know, he should be able to do that in minimal logic. And the fact is, he doesn't want to do it, okay, because he's a vain, self-obsessed, self-interested storyteller, okay, who thinks his story is so fucking interesting that, you know, he's not going to allow it to be minimized by recognizing his real place in the universe, okay, which is just another stupid rabbit. All right, anyway, something like that. So yeah, so the video is about nihilism and the difficulty of, you know, how do. It shouldn't be that hard to explain, and it shouldn't be that hard to convince a nihilist that, come on, the core is value, okay? The value core is the capacity to feel. What you feel, why you have a sensation. You can insult and degrade how foolish people feel, okay? Their foolish feelings, all you want, but there's some of it that you just can't make go away. I mean, somebody's not a fool, you know, because they're in an earthquake and there's a big giant stone has just smashed their arm and it hurts. Okay, they're not foolishly interpreting reality. They're just stuck with a natural condition where they're going to be in pain. Okay, and there's nothing they did wrong. They didn't think wrongly. They didn't process the event wrongly. Okay, they're just going to feel the result of the mechanical structure's arrangement. And there's nothing subjective about it. There's nothing subjective about the badness of the circumstance. It's not up to opinions, okay? It's explicitly and completely describable as a negative condition in the universe, one for which rescue is required, prevention is required. Something like that. Alright, so leave us play the video. Oh, I have a whole big preamble of the video, so yes. It's sort of a requirement, I think. You have some of this you have to talk to death, and I mean, again, you really shouldn't have to explain to people how bad feelings are. You know, how it's really bad to feel really bad. You shouldn't have to explain that to people. And that how preventing it is really, really important. Alright, no sound. I've got to figure out why that is. What the fuck? This computer sometimes disappoints. Yes, you can't play the sound through the microphone. Computer, you can't do that. I don't know why you were trying to do that. You know, talking to a nihilist, really. Same difference. Unacceptable. No, when it's not necessary. That's the fact. It's just not necessary. All right, so probably just talking about the general circumstance that you can't pay too much for too little, and when there's nothing, you don't pay anything is too much. So yes, there's nothing to be gained and everything to lose, and that's all that we're really doing here by allowing the door to torture to be opened. You're just not gaining anything. There's lots of shit to eat. Okay, so and then the vegan argument is, you know, again, I was just sort of arguing that veganism is the Uh, you know, that's like the marijuana to the heroin, you know, the real drug, you know, and gateway. It's a gateway philosophy to the real truth, which is even just so much more horrible than just realizing that it's not nice to eat other animals, that it's not nice to be glib and indifferent to their torture and harm. And the fact is that's what's happening in nature. It's a meat grinder. It doesn't do anything else. It just eats little children. It just seduces them with little pictures of cotton candy and fun stuff, you know, little, you know, free hopscotch games, and then slaughters the fuck out of them. And that's what the DNA molecules like doing, so to speak. That's their big thing. Their big fun is to kill children.
They know some of the words I'm saying. I mean, some of the vocabulary is common.
Yeah, just trying to talk to people, and you're just saying, "Geez, you know, how many of these words you don't understand? I don't know what the torture is. I have to explain torture. Oh shit! Yeah, god damn, too stupid. Torture be bad? Really? I have to defend the statement? Oh, fuck you."
Charming. But I really don't think she did. Okay, the only thing that kept her tolerating.
So I was doing the analogy to the metaphoring my grandmother, and the fact that most of her life was, you know, a house slave, and then she, in the last 2 years of her life, she was thrown into the worst, dismal, horrible, shovel sewage kind of slavery, and yeah, I think she wouldn't bother re-signing up if she had to do those last 2 years over again. I don't think anybody, you know, I can think about all the people I have cherished, so to speak, in my life. The ones that sort of stick out is my parents both went sort of gracefully. I mean, it really wasn't all that bad, and you know, they didn't get some disease and all that kind of stuff. You know, they just kind of, you know, ran out of functionality.
Have surgery for some purpose that you think it's going to serve. So the guy's probably for.
Right. So, you know, he's sitting there petting a little Pomeranian. You know, again, he's going to call it a rescue dog, which is just bullshit, you know, rhetoric. And pretend that somehow it's okay. You know, that I did force a bunch of surgery. You know, I cut its nuts off, or I, you know, cut out its uterus or something. And yeah, I injected it with shots, and I did this, and I did all this stuff because I know what's best. You know, and then when it's time for it to degrade and fall apart, you know, you're going to decide how dismal its last year of life is. You know, and then say you're doing it for his benefit. Fuck you. You're doing it for yours, which makes it a crime. You're an impositioner. You don't need it. And so why are you doing it? You don't have to do it. You're not required to do it. It's an indulgence, okay? The amount of psychological whatever it gives you isn't worth the price you're going to force it to pay.
So, well, you know, you think we couldn't figure it out, that that's too ugly? So first we'd figure out, well, we got to kill the food first. And
so I was just making the point that this whole vegan argument of whether to, you know, whether you can blame nature and say, well, we're just made that way. Well, obviously it's a silly argument on the science side. It's wrong scientifically to say we have evolved. We are from a chain of carnivores. We're not, okay? We were the prey animals. And it's, you know, so it's ridiculous to say that we have any biological necessity to be meat eating. And it's only in the last few 100,000 years, okay, where we acquired fire and different things, that we started indulging in this other way of stealing energy from the environment. And it was tasty too, you know. So we you know, if it wasn't for fire turning it into a flavorful, odor-rich. Okay, if you go smell, go out and kill a squirrel and then smell it. Okay, and then tell me that it smells like something to eat. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, so I mean, it's just a ridiculous argument that we are carnivores by nature, because we're just plainly not. And even if we were, it doesn't change the argument. If we were Tyrannosauruses, got the first brain, okay, they did the smart thing first, you know, and acquired knowledge, they would be stuck with the same question of, well, what am I? What are we? And how do we get here? Oh, evolution gave us some bad habit. Well, let's control that. You know, just how we don't shit in a living room, we go to a bathroom to do it. You know, they would figure out that, oh, you have to moderate your behavior because it's obnoxious if you don't. And, of course, they would have to moderate their natural function and be obedient to civilization. Wisdom, knowledge, intelligence would inform them that their design has flaws and they have to wear Pampers.
Yeah, well, and all of that conflict resolution, we know it doesn't go anywhere. All right, that's little stuff, okay? And
I don't know exactly. So I'm just probably just talking about the fact that little arguments about, you know, who's a bigger criminal, you know, animal-wise, just don't mean anything, you know, in the context of the whole system. And it's the system that's corrupt and broken, and it's the system that needs to be changed or not bothered with, unplugged. Okay, you either fix it or you stop it, but you don't sit there and just discuss endlessly, ain't it awful or something. No, not good enough. All right.
Existence of you know, meager resources and fighting over them.
Yeah, so it's just it's a gladiator thing. It's meat grinder, child molester let loose. I mean, whatever you want, however you want to metaphor the monster. But the fact is nature is a horrific imposer of wasted suffering. Just an insane amount of pain paid for, little tiny and almost silly reliefs of pain. So, you know, we're whipping one person, or 10 people, to stop the master from whipping one, and the economics is totally illogical.
Points calling out vegans and even ethical vegans on speciesism and not caring for wild animals, they're really working in me. And
so she was sort of talking about, so that was the good news, is that she was recently introduced to ethilism, and she's pretty much being convinced. You know, she doesn't have a counter argument or a way of acknowledging the physical circumstances being any different. It doesn't matter who's imprisoning, okay, us, them, it, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's prisoners, and all the prisoners need the, you know, cage opened and need to be prevented, you know, out of enslavement, and we're in a position to do it for the future.
I like that distinction, you know, just that, you know.
I mean, how many, you know, just, you know, when you start thinking about it, I mean, these people who are arguing the pro-life position, just recognize that there's going to be this magnitude, this huge magnitude of organisms, including humans, who are going to suffer all kinds of insidious pains and miseries and horrors. And you're deciding that that's a good idea. It's like you being before World War II and you saying, I'm not going to stick the fork in Hitler's eye. You know, that, nah, the 50 million, you know, ruined lives will be just fine. You know, or you could even go, you know, 500 million ruined lives, frankly. You know, all the peoples whose lives, you know, one of my closest friends in existence. Her brother was killed in World War II, and it changed their whole family life. Everything, the brother was this key little piece to the whole thing working, and without him, the whole thing just didn't work. And her father never got over it, and it just, crap like that. I mean, there's so much damage and so much pain and suffering that's going to be endured, and you're sitting there and rubber stamping it and saying, yeah, I'm for it. I think it's a great idea. Let's ruin a bunch of things. Let's compose incredible torture and horror so we can continue singing when she's coming around the mountain, when she comes. What are we doing? Are we doing something? So what is it? What are we going to do? What do you think that future is going to do? It's going to remake The Godfather? What spectacular thing is that future going to do to justify all of the torture, all of the blood it's going to cost? Come on. You've got to know it's not going to be doing anything but singing, she's coming around. Okay, yeah, they changed the word a little to whore and skank. But, when the skank is coming around the whore, money, dude, nigga. So yeah, just change the words a little bit. It's the same shitty song. Come on. Fuck.
So, I think you have to be a moron to think that we can't logically and rationally deduce, understand through collection of experience and I mean the fact that we're sentient. I mean, again.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make the argument. I mean, clearly we have this huge advantage. We are conscious, so we're allowed to taste this ouchy stuff and all the rest of it, and so we can know with a certainty what it is. And because we can be the experiment, we can actually be the pendulum in the experiment. We can actually, and so fuck. To pretend we don't understand that there's bad in the universe because you can personally experience it, for fuck's sake. You get to taste it. How can you deny its existence when you can taste it very easily? Just take a needle or a nail and penetrate your eye with it, and you can find out what, oh, that's what they're talking about. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. Retard. Yeah, that is bad. Yeah, we've got to stop that from happening.
That is something.
Me either.
Yeah, that is something that you're going to have to accept, and you can get caught in a debate and get, be shown that you're contradicting yourself.
So amazing. I mean, so arrogant. Telling her, the what failure looks like when arguing from the position that there's no value in the universe is failure. I mean, you can't fail more dramatically than that. You cannot trip over the starting line any more, humorously.
Roughly 30 to 40,000 traffic deaths per year.
So he's talking about traffic deaths as if they're accidents. Which is funny. Most of all of them. And that there's no something more than what. So he's saying that basically lions and tigers and bears, oh my, are willfully and knowingly causing harm to other organisms. That somehow they have knowledge and it's a malicious act, and therefore it matters. But if they accidentally stepped on a mouse, okay, that would be okay. So they can't chase down food, but they could accidentally step on a mouse and kill it, and that would be all right. And you're just saying, this guy's an idiot. I mean, this is
Physical phenomenon in the universe. This is just I just can't even believe somebody would call themselves a non-realist.
Yeah, so he actually does call himself a non-realist. What the fuck? I wish he was a non-talkist, because that's what a non-realist should be, is a non-talkist. They really shouldn't say anything or assert anything or do anything if they don't think we're trying to describe reality. If that's not what he thinks we're trying to do, then just do something else with your time. Pet your dog and shut up. Oh, well, we'll jump ahead a little. Yeah, that was boring.
I'm fine with the downside of their ultimate.
So he's fine.
So he's fine. He's figuring the pain-pleasure quotient is just okay, and if things just went on the way they are, it's all okay. And you're just like, what the fuck? Just, what an idiot. What an asshole. It's not even an idiot. He's an asshole. Oh, fuck.
There's nothing. There's no meaning to the universe.
So this is his whole speech. There's no meaning to the universe. Well, the argument isn't whether there's somebody for the universe to mean something to. So that would be silly. But the fact that there's stuff in the universe that has meaning, that's meaningful, that's meaning rich, well, the fact that sentience is in the universe means the universe has to have meaning, because sentience is meaningful, it's recognizable, it's attention-getting, it's attention-deserving. Let's put it that way. The existence of sentience in the universe is deserving of attention. It's an interesting, profound, devastatingly powerful fact that must be acknowledged and reconciled as you have to prove it to be benign. You have to show under the microscope how it's not decidedly dangerous, negative, harsh, brutal, wasteful, all of that stuff now, because it has demanded your attention because of this very fact that you have tasted it and acknowledged the fact that, yes, it's definitely got this badness in it. There's no doubt about it. Okay, the badness, the poison, the amount of arsenic in this pie is undeniable. Your job is to prove that the arsenic doesn't matter.
Sentient beings. Without sentient beings in the universe could not possibly be consequential.
Right, so I already made that point pretty clearly in this video, so we won't bother with that again. But, I mean, damn it. I mean, how can, how can he read the writing on his own shirt and not be able to figure this out? I mean, you're just, come on. Damn, fucking stupid. I mean, it's just so disgusting, that atheists do this to their brain. That they find some other way to escape acknowledging the sinking boat. And it's just, sorry. I just can't figure out how a brain goes that crooked. It seems so dishonest. How could you possibly say there's no meaning in the universe when there's feeling things in it?
Even tormenting animals in concentration camps. This is not subjective. It's not a subjective argument.
It's not a flavor of ice cream. It's an argument about the fact that it exists and the fact that it's innately and well tested to be something that has to be corrected. I know I wouldn't pay an infinite price for any part of my life, obviously, and I wouldn't pay much, pain and suffering for all of it, And if I did pay anything for it, it would be because I was a fool to think, oh, but I'm so special and I really should exist because I'm just so, so interesting and special. I would be an idiot to be thinking that that's reasoning when obviously that's just me doing my it's about me thing, you know, and unfortunately that's bad psychology. That we have a lot of bad psychology polluting our intelligence.
All right.
All right, so that's enough. All right, so interesting. I didn't, didn't finish. You know, it's 2 hours. I played whatever the interesting little 15 minutes, and so maybe I'll go back and see what else they say, or if he has some other way of explaining his nihilism that can possibly make any sense. You know, that somehow we don't discern the maze, the game. You know, defining the game. All right, and understanding the DNA molecule's role, understanding the Earth, its position in space, third planet from the sun kind of bullshit, you know, all the factors that are creating this mechanism, and then figuring out that, oh yeah, we're made of living things, we're not really alive, you know, we've enslaved a bunch of little living cells, and fortunately most of them don't have any neurons, so they're not doing anything unpleasant. You know, their slavery doesn't matter. You know, but that's what we are, and, you know, so we're essentially made of living things, and it's really just this blob of electricity, this little, you know, and the configuration of it, that it creates this theater, this homunculus, you know, where it creates us sitting, you know, watching a screen, that a projection that our brain interprets out of reality with its senses, and it has this capacity to, you know, to stick shit up our ass, to, you know, to fuck with us, in this dramatic way, and you know, it's happening. It's silly to say it's not happening. It's happening. You know, whether the substance of our brains function obviously isn't. It's the existence of the sensation is only a material thing in terms of the arrangement. It's not a substance. It's an action. It's an event. Feelings, you know, and because they're events doesn't mean they don't exist. Yeah, I guess that would be a way of saying it. Events can be just as real as the material things involved in the event. Okay, something like that. Anyway, till the next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.